We go to another great athlete who some of you may know from the diabetes community. It is my honor to welcome Maartje Roskams from, I actually don't know where you are right now, Maartje. I know that you work with IDF Europe. I am a board member with IDF Europe. If some of you may know, Maartje has been supporting us for a long time. She has been in charge of our youth leadership camps, which we had to cancel due to COVID, then turned it into virtual, as we did with Doc Day, etc., and did the Youth Leadership Lab last year. And Maartje was the fantastic person making that work on a platform called Discord and Zoom calls, etc. But Maartje, that's not what we're talking about today. You are also a very active athlete, and you have been hit by COVID. And it is, we don't want to do this to scare people, but you know, we have all been, as people with diabetes, been a bit afraid of what COVID would mean for us. And you're just going to share a little bit of your own experience. Maartje.
Hi, Bastian. Thank you so much for giving us the great opportunity to join dedoc with this amazing scholarship. So as Bastian told, I am Maartje Roskams and I'm tuning in from Belgium. So, you know, unfortunately, I'm just in Belgium. And currently I'm working at IDF Europe. So for me, the story goes way back, of course, as it is for a lot of people with diabetes, I guess. I lived in quite a major fear of contracting a COVID infection, not because people with diabetes are more likely to contract it, but just because of the impact and the consequences that it can have on your body and a lot of other things. For example, COVID or an infection in general can cause ketoacidosis, which is a quite severe and scary situation. And the moment I received my positive COVID test, I freaked out big time. Because I guess most of it was the build-up anxiety of catching COVID and also for the consequences it could have in my direct environment. So it might even make the outcome of my first days worse or my first sick days worse. And at the worst point, for me, it was too difficult to walk from my bed to the toilet. In the first days, I wasn't able to sit straight, to have like a proper food and drink intake. And I was also alone in my student room. And obviously, I had support from people around me, but the quarantine and the lack of food and fluids made me really scared of developing ketoacidosis and also not reaching proper health on time. So the confrontation with the fact that I'm young, I'm healthy and sportive, I'm just 24 years old, and the COVID infection knocked me down completely. And I expected to be worse because I'm living with diabetes, but I never thought that it could be like that. So I'm still alive, I'm still recovering, but I'm safe, I'm good. But it took a really long time to recover from it. So the moment I started to do cardiorespiratory revalidation at the physiotherapist, it gave me hope to recover properly and again get my life back on track. But still, sometimes I feel the consequences of COVID, and it's already 3 months ago. And for me, I guess the take-it-home message by telling this, again, I do not want to scare people, but it is so important to still respect all the COVID measurements. And although life seems to get normal, it's so important to still respect that. But most of it, I also feel that it's the responsibility of policymakers and the government to prioritize young people, also young people with type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, but this is more likely an older population, but to take them in consideration and give them priority in the vaccination strategy. Because it made me so sad that young people with diabetes were not seen as a priority in a lot of countries. It's not because we are not likely to die as a young person that the consequences can be major on your own body, but also on the healthcare system, because catching ketoacidosis can be so dangerous. And it's not only our body or the fear or the chance that you might die from it, but also the consequences on the healthcare system are major. So that was my experience with COVID.
Maartje, thanks for sharing. And as you were saying, you were scared from the beginning. And we had a conversation about that, and I said, why are you scared? You were 23 at the time. And I remember last year you did a 1,500 kilometer bike ride to raise awareness for diabetes. And I was like, come on, you are probably the most likely to, even if you get it, be knocked out by it. And then exactly that happened. So yeah, I think it is important, your take-home message, that we're not done yet. And in some places it might feel that way now with things opening up. Here where I am now in Copenhagen, it's some people still wear masks going into restaurants, but that's it. In Berlin, we're still just coming out of lockdown. I know in Australia, people are going back into lockdown just because of a very few cases. But other parts of the world are still very, very much affected by COVID as we speak. And it's not going to be over anytime soon. And it will continue to be a risk factor for everybody out there, but for us maybe a little bit more so than for others. With that being said, Maartje, thank you very much for sharing a bit of your personal fears and stories, but also the important take-home message.